Welcome to the Working Tools Podcast, where today will be part 2 of our interview with Right Worshipful Brother Lucas Minton, Deputy Grand Master of Arkansas.
Ladies and gentlemen, brethren all, welcome to the Working Tools Podcast, a casual conversation around Freemasonry. First, it's important to note that our thoughts and opinions are our own and do not reflect those of our Grand Lodge or respective craft or concordant bodies. Please connect with us and ask questions via our website at theworkingtoolspodcast.com.
Today on the Working Tools Podcast, we have 3/4 of our usual hosts. We have Very Worshipful Brother Stephen Chung, who's a member of Prince Charles Lodge number 153 in Kelowna, British Columbia. Very Worshipful Brother David Colbeth from King Solomon number 60 in Auburn, Washington. I'm Matt Appel. I'm a member of Mill Creek 243 here in Montlake Terrace, Washington. And we are honored to have with us Right Worshipful Brother Lucas Minton, who's the Deputy Grand Master of Arkansas. Thank you, Right Worshipful Sir, for coming back on to another episode. We appreciate having you here.
Well, I'm sorry that you're such a glutton for punishment.
So before the break, we talked a little bit about woo-woo Masons, and we've had a couple of recently more esoteric-minded Masons on the show. Jamie Paul Lamb was here a couple episodes ago, and such. And I guess you and I met you twice, I think, but both times were, I can't remember what the lodge was. It was either St. John's or Walter F. Meyer Lodge of Research. You came up and did a presentation on the hero's journey, as I recall.
It was at St. John's, yes. I did not make it to the Research Lodge.
And the other time I met you was at our Esotericism and Masonry conference that we have out here. So you lean in that direction of Masonry. You're in tune with that sort of side of things.
Well, I don't know if I'm smart enough to be in tune, but I'm certainly trying to be smarter about it. It's one of those things, everybody kind of comes to their different things at different times. And that's one thing that I have just slowly kind of been gathering to myself and reading and studying. And unfortunately, this last 6-8 months, I've not done a whole lot of anything. It feels like I've just been on the road, whether in Arkansas or elsewhere. They don't warn you about that part. That by the way, if you like to read, you probably won't get to read very much here for too long.
Yeah, you got to get somebody else to drive you to all these things, so you can.
I guess so. Just be like, shh, don't talk. I'm reading. Shh.
Our Deputy Grand Master put his calendar out for his likely year coming up here in June, and yeah, it's crazy. I remember. I don't know why I'm talking so much. This interview isn't about me, but I'll tell the story anyway. A few years ago, actually, when I was master the first time, actually, I might have been a warden. I was still a warden. So I was talking with somebody in my lodge at our installation, and I said, I don't understand how these Grand Lodge guys do it. They must all have to be retired and divorced in order to get to all this stuff that they do. And one of our Grand Master happened to be sitting, like here. I just couldn't see him out of my peripheral vision. And he goes, "Well, Matt, I'm married and I still have a job." And I was like, "Oh." So yeah, he set me straight, but it can be done apparently. But it's definitely a lot of work.
I'm working on my schedule for next year, and I'm trying to, there's a couple things. I just kicked my stuff here. I'm trying to. Sorry about that. I'm trying to get regional meetings. I don't know if you guys do regional meetings or how you guys do that for the Grand Master, but trying to do regional meetings. A lot of our Grand Masters will just want to do a mid-year, one mid-year meeting in, say, August. Yes, the middle of our Masonic year. They'll do it in Little Rock. In Arkansas, kind of all roads to lead to Little Rock, even the gravel ones or dirt ones, if you will. And so anyway, that's what a lot of them do. But I'm going to try and boost the number of guys who are engaged by doing these. I'm wanting to do these regional conferences, do database stuff. Perpetual membership stuff. That's kind of back on me and the business piece of all this. Our perpetual in Arkansas is set up a little different than most places, where we freeze the per capita, or what you guys might call the head tax, when a person buys their perpetual. And so there are ways that you can use it, and you can my good friend and office mate, Max Bowling, who's also past master at my lodge, we kind of developed a spreadsheet, and we put in the what is it, the CSV file, and it kind of parses it all out, and it shows where each one makes money, where it's underwater, and what the return needs to be, or how much more it needs to be funded to make it, essentially solvent. So anyway, so that's another thing I want to do with these meetings, other than our database. We've still got, I doubt you guys have this problem, but we still have a lot of older secretaries. I didn't say old, I said older. And they're like, I don't even know how to turn on a computer. And they're very proud of that. And so a number of years ago, we developed a, I got to think what we'd call it. Surcharge sounds mean, but it's essentially, I don't want to mess with the computer, and I don't want to have an assistant secretary.
It's administrative fee.
Administrative fee. Thank you. Yes, good job, David. We have an administrative fee for the guys who absolutely refuse to work on computers or have an assistant secretary that'll help them work on a computer. So like at our lodge, before I was secretary, I was the assistant secretary. The secretary kept all the minutes. He sent in all the, stuff that had to be sent into Grand Lodge, unless it was petitions, because in the end, they're like, why don't you just email us all the petition stuff? So I'd get my phone out, scan it, email it. But anyway, so I did all that. I did all the database entry. And but the guys who don't want to do that, so it's like, okay, you don't want to do that. Well, we'll do the database entry, and that's $10. We'll do so-and-so, and it's $5. And we'll file your 990, and that's another $10. All this kind of stuff, because they don't want to mess with it. So anyway, so that's one of the things I want to do in these conferences is be like, oh yeah, and here's boom, 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 how you can do this. And you can actually do this with an assistant secretary if you'll turn over a little bit of the reins for something that you don't even want to do anyway. So anyway, some stuff like that.
When they pry it from my cold, dead hands.
Well, and that's kind of what I'm afraid of. It's kind of what I'm afraid of.
You glanced off something there, and I just wanted to touch it real quick. When is your? I guess I'm assuming you have an annual communication where you elect and install the new grand officers. When is that?
That is the first Thursday and Friday of February. So that should be, if I remember right, the 4th and 5th of February.
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to make sure we got that in there in case anyone wants to show up at.
Well, I would love to have whoever is interested to come. Y'all can come. We have our annual communication at our temple. Did I? I'm trying to remember. Did I send you our Scottish Rite commercial?
You did. It is amazing.
Okay, I thought I did.
I'm already in Scottish Rite, and I texted these guys and said, I want to join the Scottish Rite now.
Well, I mean, it's got a lot of the temple highlights, the specifically the auditorium stuff, but ours was, when they built ours, they really were worried about, we'd grown a lot. They knew we were going to keep growing, but there was also a little bit of sustainability thoughts. So the north end of the building has dedicated space for the Grand Lodge offices, which the Grand Lodge at one point, 2016, said, we want to be on the 3rd floor. So they went to the 3rd floor, and so then the offices over here on the north end sat vacant until my buddy I was talking about, Max, me and him ended up renting that space, about 18 months ago we put in some smoke eaters. So we've got the smoke eaters, and we've got a whiskey wall if y'all need me to entice you to come down anymore. But anyway, we've got some purpose-built York Rite rooms upstairs. We've got 2 Blue Lodges upstairs. We've got a fraternal room, and then we've got a place, a little patio we call the Pike Patio, and the Acacia Club. So anyway, but anyway, y'all are more than free to come. If you call in advance, you can actually get. Now you got to be willing to kind of slum a little bit, but we've got a barracks style room upstairs where guys can call ahead and get some room. So at that point, you'd only be out your food and your transportation. So make sure I throw that out there.
So that's the first Thursday and Friday in February.
That's correct.
Oh man, that's the 7th degree. They won't let me go.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, I tried. That's all I can do is try.
But okay, so now I got a good question.
Okay.
What possessed you to want to go through the grand line and become the grand master?
Insanity. Absolute, total insanity. No, it was one of those deals. Man, I fought and I fought and I fought this, and I had people. I was district deputy in 2017, and I was master of my lodge 2014, and then 2019 and 2020. And in 2020, I was the grand marshal. But from 2017 until 2022, when I became grand junior deacon, and that's actually the position we run for. We run for the very bottom line at junior deacon. So it's a 6-year line, all said and done. It's pretty grueling. But I all along the way, these guys are like, you will do that. You and I, no. I have no desire to do this. I have no desire to do this, and I didn't. But in 2017 is what really, looking back, kind of set me on the path. And I was district deputy. Still didn't care to do anything, but I got put on an audit committee, and I kind of hinted at some shenanigans, earlier when we were talking, and I was on the committee that brought the shenanigans to light. Kind of went on, and we had it was the first, and till now still, it was the only called, not even emergent, but a called meeting of the Grand Lodge of Arkansas. And we called the meeting to address the brethren, tell them, like, here's what's happened to the finances, here's where we're at, here's how we've taken care of the problem so far, and here's where we're going. And so from that point forward, until 2022, I was on that audit committee. And I enjoyed a lot of celebrity from that, because I ended up being the guy who presented all the findings of the committee. And guys stayed on me. They're like, oh, you should do this. I was like, no. And then at some point, like, I looked around and I was like, I'm a couple things. I had my second daughter in 2018, and I wanted to prove that a guy who had a family, who was not retired, could do this. That was a personal thing I wanted to show could be done. And then the other piece of that was, I just really felt like, I was like, someone needs to do this. Someone needs to bring back some of the business to this, because we've had guys for years and years and years, and it's just like, whatever. But I feel like we needed someone who will come in and be like, hey, let's look at this in a business aspect. Like what's working, what's not working, how do we fix some of these things. And I feel like our in Arkansas, our committee, that's the trustee committee, or the executive committee, we call it the committee on work. The committee on, and it's confusing, because most places that's your ritual committee, but the committee on work, I feel like we've done a lot over the last couple of years, kind of cut a lot of the fat out of the budget, trim back services weren't needed, all this kind of stuff. Especially, we've had a bunch of guys over the years who were not, I'm not this big IT guy or anything, but they really didn't know what they were dealing with. And, we had IT companies trying to sell us a new $20,000, $10,000 server every 3-5 years. It's like, what do we need a server for? There are 2 people on computers at any given time. This is and once again, I don't know anything. I'm like, this is the craziest stuff I've ever seen. And so anyway, so we've just, we've methodically been trying to get much more business sense about us over the last close to 10 years. And that was one thing that kind of pushed me to it. Another is I had a bunch of guys who young as or younger than, because the gray, I'm definitely not young anymore. And this running around grand lodging is definitely making me older faster. I've figured that part out. But these guys are like, someone needs to do this, who's not a 75-year Mason, essentially. That's what they're being a little bit ridiculous about. But they're like, someone needs to go in who's like, no, I'm still working, kind of stuff I said, and say this is, and we've dealt with. I don't know about you guys up there, but we have consistently dealt with, and Brother Brett Wolf and I have talked about it. We've consistently dealt with in Arkansas guys saying young men don't want this, and these guys are 80 years old. They're like, it's like, have you ever asked? Well, I don't have to. Maybe you should. Maybe you should, because they're like, they want the degrees faster. No, I've yet to meet a guy under the age of 60 that wants anything faster. It's really all in your head. You just want to leave here faster. I've dealt with a lot of that. We've dealt with a lot of it in Scottish Rite. We've really been pushing back on that a lot in Scottish Rite because we've got a lot of guys who are like, we just need to do one day because young men don't care. It's like, have you asked any young men? What's that supposed to mean? I'm literally, what did I just say? And so I had a bunch of guys who were like, you need to do this because you can come in and you can be a voice for guys who are like, no, our guys, and this back in my hero's journey talk I do, a lot of guys, when they come into Masonry, they want to experience the full Monty, if you will, that Masonry has to offer. They want to feel like I got the same thing that my daddy and my granddaddy, my great granddaddy got in my case. I want that same experience. I don't want you to shortchange me. I want you to make it easier. I don't want you to make it faster. I want it exactly like it was in the old days. And so that was a thing that a lot of guys were saying to me. They're like, you need to do this because they're not going to listen to just anybody saying that. They're going to listen to a grandmaster who's younger saying it. So that was another big piece that kind of pushed them forward. It's just like they need someone who's from that demographic in their 40s who's going to come and say, no, this is what men want, and this is how we're going to do it. That's
I've had
that
very similar experience on a much smaller scale. The first time I was master, we raised the dues from $55 to $80 a year. And yeah, exactly. And I distinctly remember two of the more senior Masons standing up and saying, hey, the young guys can't afford to do this. The young guys aren't going to do it. And I'm like, I'm the youngest guy in the room here, I think. And I'm the one putting it forward to something we ought to be doing. So,
wow,
let's roll with it. Yeah.
Well, that sounds really good compared to our 210.
We're working on getting our TO lodge started here in Arkansas, and the
What's
guys
TO stand for?
Traditional observance.
Okay.
Or observant style lodge, whatever you want to call it. We're working on getting this lodge started, but these guys who are wanting to do this, they're all very willing to pony up for it. They're wanting to do it English style where we have lodge. If they're do papers, degree, degree work, as y'all would call it, posting lectures, all this kind of stuff in your life. And then afterwards have, a nice catered in dinner or go somewhere with the wives. And it seems like the kind of temperature of the room is that all the wives' meals will be comped if they come to the meetings. And so but all that stuff and pocket jewel, we've designed a pocket jewel kind of specific aprons. So all of these things kind of make it very uniform looking and all. And these guys are to pay for all that. Everybody's like, yeah, I'll do $1,000 for that. I'll do $1,000 a year just to get that experience.
Wow.
They're not going to be upset about that extra $30. And what's funny about that, Matt, is you say that. I mean, I've heard the same thing. I've been in there, and he's like, "These younger guys can't afford this." I was like, "I am the youngest guy in this room."
Yep.
And I tell you what, I promise you, I wasted more than $30 on bad food last week because I was stuck in Little Rock and I couldn't get to where I wanted to go eat. So I had to buy some kind of trashy fast food somewhere.
Yeah, I've said many times in this show, a broken record, I think dues should be $1,200 a year, and that would include catered meals. That would include a ticket to Grand Annual Communication, a ticket to leadership conference, some kind of fall conference, regular donations to philanthropy, your Grand Lodge dues, a donation to the Grandmaster's charity. All that could be bundled into whatever number it is, to 1,000, to 1,200, 1,500, whatever it is.
Whatever the number.
Yeah, because if you add it all up, that's how much we spend anyway.
We're already spending.
I beg your pardon, sir. 25 cents of your per capita goes to the Grand Lodge Charity Fund. So I don't understand how you could possibly want more than that.
Yeah, I understand that too.
Yeah, I mean, when you go to an event, if you go to a conference, like even this, I was at the leadership conference this weekend. When it's all bundled together, yeah, it seems like a big number, but then it's all okay. it's no big deal. But if you had to say, oh, it's $200 for the hotel and then $60 for the meal, I don't know if I want to spend $60 on a meal. But if it was $300 for the weekend, you wouldn't even think about the $60 meal.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I think we all agree that everybody's trying to cheap out. And, you know, it's funny because I would say that we have the kind of the inverse problem with you guys. A lot of lodges here are pretty hand to mouth. But we've still got quite a few Masons running around, probably more than we need when you consider some of the quality we've got. But I think, you know, a lot of that has started sorting itself out, I think, over the years as dues have went up, as people have really started to redirect their lodges and say, you know, this is what we're here for. This is what we're going to do. We're going to work on this ritual work. We're going to work on this education. And I think that has thinned us out, but maybe in a good way. I really think that has. But it's still, you know, I talked to Cameron about this on Rummer and Grapes, that you know, we just got so many lodges here in Arkansas. We've still got 172, I think, and I mean, it's just now starting to get to the point where with some of these consolidations, you're starting to get some lodges back together. These districts, you know, as they've got smaller, some of these lodges getting together are starting to start getting a kitty together finally again, where they're not like, okay, you know, we got to pay the electric bill this month. Can you put some money in the hat? It's like, man, we just need to go to the house if that's the way we're going to operate. And I was going to say, when we talk to somebody about joining my home lodge, my mother lodge, they're like, how much does it cost to be a member here? $100 to just carry your card. That's what it costs. I said, now your initiation is going to cost more because you're going to pay for a little bit for all 3 degrees. So it's going to be $150. So, but here's the deal. If you're going to just carry a card, it's going to cost you $100. I said, but if you're a member of this lodge, say it's going to cost you somewhere between $200 and $300, because I'm going to ask you to put money in the kitty every time, because we don't do a food budget at our lodge. We do a purposeful potluck. And that's where the junior warden's like, I'm going to have roast. David, it's your job to bring the rolls. Stephen is going to bring the potatoes. You know, this kind of deal. He's like, Matt, don't you dare forget dessert. Like that's the way that's going to work. So we're going to potluck, but it's going to be very purposeful. But I'm going to tell a guy, you're going to bring food and you're going to put money in the kitty, because that's the way it works. Because you do no good. And we had a master, and he felt like the lodge should pay for everything. I'm like, we are the lodge. I was like, we're paying for it one way or another. There's no point in writing a check out of the treasury. I was like, that's stupid. We need to just pay. We need to be adults. But some people can't. They can't bother to hear that.
Shift gears a little bit. I saw that
Probably why I get wound up.
I looked up the history of our Grand Lodge of Arkansas, 1838. It says, and so obviously even older than the Grand Lodge of Washington. Lots of history. If you had to think of a historic Arkansas Mason that comes to mind, or if you could sit in a lodge with any historic Arkansas Mason, is there one or two that maybe comes to mind?
Whose initials aren't AP?
There's three. So Pike, obviously, that's the easy one. Pike's the easy one. He was raised at Western Star number 2, right there in Little Rock. It's in the temple. Western Star is in the temple. He wasn't raised in the temple, but in the temples where Western Star is. The other two, one of them is a guy named E.H. English. And we have a cemetery in Albert Pike's, I think his kids are buried there. It's called Mount Holly Cemetery. And a bunch of past grandmasters and 2 of our SGIGs, if I'm right, maybe 3 are buried there. And E.H. English was one of our first Scottish Rite members. He was Grandmaster. He's our longest serving Grandmaster. He was Grandmaster, I think it was 3 times, and then he was out for like 5 or 6 years, and then 7 times. And we have pieces of our code that it just says, a man shall, blah, 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 Grandmaster English. And that's all it says. That's how it's notated, just Grandmaster English. And so if you go to Mount Holly and you go find his monument, it says on the side, it says, and always in her highest offices, he was the beauty and glory of Arkansas Freemasonry. And he was, like I said, he was one of our first Scottish Rite members in Arkansas. Pike, he was one of Pike's guys. But Pike deferred to him. He was on, English was Chief Justice, Arkansas Supreme Court, when Pike was on the Supreme Court with him. I think I got that my time frame correct there. And he was considered one of the most, he was prolific. He was General Grand High Priest for the General Grand Chapter York Rite Masons International. He was incredible. Him and Pike. And then the third one is Charles E. Rosenbaum. He does not get his due. He was Lieutenant Grand Commander. He was Grand Master in 1915, and he purchased out of pocket, funded, however you want to call it, set up the first Scottish Rite building, exclusive Scottish Rite building, which was, we bought a synagogue there in Little Rock. And then he built the first purpose-built Scottish Rite temple in ever. And then first time there was, robes, lights, music, the whole 9 yards, backdrops. And then he expanded us. We expanded in 1910. Finished up, I think it was 1913, somewhere in there. The first consistory, there's we've got a little Teddy Roosevelt display because that was his headquarters when he was in Arkansas. And anyway, but Rosenbaum, and then he expanded it the last time to the building that we have currently. And he was on the building committee for the House of the Temple in D.C. He was chairman of the building committee. So those are my big three.
Very cool. And unfortunately, I'm sure these guys have more questions, judging by the look in David's eye. But
we could stay here all night, of course.
If nothing else, I would want to ask him about rewriting the ritual when it was necessary. But that's
yeah. I just want to say thank you so much for being with us, and
thank you for having me.
It's an honor to have this more formal conversation or formal conversation with you, and of course we'd cherish to have the opportunity to have another conversation with you in the future.
Yeah, because we never even got to talk about Scottish Rite.
Well, yeah. But thank you so much, and best of luck to you as you ascend.
Thank you.
You bet.
Maybe he'd come back.
Maybe we might be able to.
If y'all can tolerate me.
I was going to say we had to bribe him to come back, but apparently it's a two-way street. So, well, thank you very much, Brother Lucas, Right Worshipful Brother Lucas, excuse me, for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. It was a great conversation, and to all of you out there, if you have some suggestions on people you'd like to see on the show in the future, or thoughts or commentary on how awesome our guest is, please feel free to leave comments on all the appropriate social media places. And secondly, on behalf of David and Stephen and myself and Craig, thank you all for listening to the Working Tools Podcast. Goodbye.